Welcome back to part 2 of the programme, where you find me outside the National Museum of Carthage, just north of Tunis. It really is the most fantastic site, and it's filled with Roman monumental masonry and pillars. But I'm actually going to go inside where there's some fantastic mosaics and works of art. The Carthage that Rome went on to build on the ruins of the city that they had sacked grew to become one of the greatest cities of the Roman Empire. The mosaics inside this museum bear witness to the sophisticated lifestyles of its inhabitants. Ah, there's Medusa herself. Now, the amazing thing about the way that the Tunisian authorities run this museum is that it's not only a museum. There's archaeology going on all around us at the same time. I mean, outside, there's action excavation going on. And as you can see here, quite literally, they're restoring mosaics around me. They've got these vast expanse of them. And indeed, right here, there's Medusa. She's been restored to us to live amongst us once again. I just hope that having looked at her, I don't turn into stone. The mosaics are restored using exactly the same methods as would have been used by Roman craftsmen thousands of years ago. And they even recycle old Roman tiles to complete the designs. Only the white tiles are newly mined here in Tunisia. All in all, the National Museum at Carthage is a wonderful window into the ancient cities that bore that legendary name. I'm now at the Roman amphitheatre in El Jem in southern Tunisia. And if you think it looks impressive from the outside, wait until you see it inside. Carthage's greatest crime was location, location, and location. Situated as the city was on the cusp between the trade routes between the eastern and western Mediterranean, and with such a rich agricultural hinterland, it couldn't fail to prosper. And if any proof of that were required, then immediately after its sacking, the first thing the Romans did was build a new city. They established the Roman colony of Africa Proconsularis. And basically, up until about 235 AD, this was the richest and most powerful colony in the Roman Empire. At its height, it returned 1/3 of all the seats in the Senate at Rome. It provided one emperor, and it provided 2/3 of all the grain that the empire required. Inevitably, what this means is that the whole Roman infrastructure came to be constructed here. Its roads, its baths, its forums, and of course, its mighty amphitheatres. By the decline of the Roman Empire, huge swathes of the intelligentsia, the writers, the thinkers, the historians of the empire, actually come from the provinces, particularly this, its most fabulously rich province. So what's actually happening is that the new ideas, really, are coming from outside of the imperial capital. The imperial capital, if you like, is no longer in the driving seat. And of all the new ideas that are spreading, one that is particularly taking root here is a strange new sect called the Christians. During the relative anarchy of the 3rd century AD, Christianity began to establish firm roots in this corner of the empire. And as this sect flourished, so it was persecuted. And it is absolutely certain that Christians would have suffered and died in these very dungeons that I'm walking past now. By the conversion of the Emperor Constantine at the beginning of the 4th century, however, things changed. By that time, here in Novo Carthage, New Carthage, one of the great schools of rhetoric had been established. Filled with some of the great early scholars of the Christian world, one particularly stands out, St. Augustine. Now, he was a funny chap, actually. I like him. He had a sense of humor. Essentially, the church that he was joining, or was a member of, was quite a harsh calling in many ways. Just to give you an idea, basically, if you wished to join, the first thing that happened to you was that you were exorcised. You went through an exorcism. Then you would have to wait 3 years before you were actually baptized. Then, having been baptized and you joined the flock, you were expected to practice celibacy. Now, St. Augustine was quite clearly not entirely in favor of all this straight away. He very famously remarked to his own God, "Dear Lord, please make me chaste, but not yet." Indeed, he lived life to the full. He fell in love, he had a wife, he had a son. He had a series of affairs, and he lived life, quite frankly, to the full. And I do actually suspect him of basically having a good time until mortality intimated itself to him. Then, realizing his own end being in sight, he decided to take out a kind of heavenly insurance and devoted his thinking and his brilliance and his philosophy to the faith that would then preserve him in eternity forever after. But what I think is absolutely important is that St. Augustine affected the teachings of the European Catholic Church for the next 1,000 years. So if you think of Carthage, you think of New Carthage, the great granary, the grain basket of imperial Rome, and then you think of these early Christian saints, this land really does speak to me 3 words: location, location, and location.